Let's bring in Danailov, a airline compensation specialist. Good to have you with us on the programme. Lots of people, of course, stuck around the globe, all worried about not only how they're going to get home, but whether they're going to be out of pocket. What are their rights, first of all?
Hello, Jonathan. Thank you very much for having me on the program. I'll be very glad to cast some clarity on the applicable laws. So first, I think we have to ask the question, who is covered by the UK and the EU laws for passenger assistance. So if you were to depart from the UK, or you were due to arrive in the UK with a British airline, or you were due to arrive in the UK from an EU member state, regardless of airline, the airline is legally obliged to offer you a choice between either a refund or a replacement flight at the earliest possible opportunity. Now, if you choose a refund, then in a matter of a few days, you should be able to receive that. If you choose a replacement flight, the airline owes you a duty of care for the duration of the flight disruption. So that means until you board your replacement flight. The airline, you can claim usually the costs of reasonable accommodation. So that means hotel expenses, transport to and from the airport would also be covered. And the airline also has to provide you with reasonable meals and refreshments.
So that's interesting. So the airline has a duty of care if your flight is cancelled. And that's the case even if it's not their fault. If it's something outside of the airline's remit, then they still have to provide accommodation, food, etc.
Exactly, Jonathan. That's a very good point. When it comes to the duty of care and refunds and replacement flights, it doesn't matter whether the disruption was caused by extraordinary circumstances. Now, the UK laws also provide for a payment of a compensation amount to the customers. That usually ranges between 220 and 520 pounds, dependent on the length of the disrupted flight. But given the fact that the Heathrow closure will very likely be qualified as an extraordinary circumstance, passengers will not be able to claim that.
And what about airlines that are based outside of Great Britain or Europe? Do they all have these sort of policies?
The majority of the airlines, they do have similar policies. Yes, that's true, even if they do not fall under the UK law specifically. I think it's very good to give a practical advice to the passengers right now. You should definitely read the terms and conditions of your contract of carriage with the airline that you purchase your ticket with. All of their obligations should be stated there.
So this is largely good news then for passengers who are stressed, who are worried, who are concerned about being out of pocket. Ultimately, the airline has a duty to look after them and get them to where they need to be.
Exactly, that's very true. My only advice in this situation will be for people not to panic and for people to save all of their receipts for the expenses that they make so they can make a claim later on with the airline. And the good news is that you have a lot of time to make the claim because the limitation period in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland is currently set at 6 years. In Scotland, it's 5 years. So you have quite a lot of time to make a claim.
That's good to know. There's plenty of time to get those receipts sent in. What about travel insurance? Tell me about that, because does that offer anything to stranded passengers that could help?
Absolutely. Travel insurance is a great option as long as you have it, though, because many people, they underestimate that in our experience and not many people are covered. But definitely, if you have travel insurance, make sure to read your policy and you might be covered.
And that would help perhaps for people who miss important work or other related events which they may need compensation for. Is that what travel insurance could add on top of what the airline is offering?
Exactly. That's highly dependent on your policy, of course, but that's the basic idea.
What about paying by credit card? Any benefit there?
That depends largely on the airline. I think the gist here maybe is that people should definitely focus on the expenses that they make and to basically pretty much not have all of their hopes up on the UK regulations, but I think that's their strongest bet.
Okay, the strongest bet. Let's talk about sort of longer term and who is at fault here, because the airlines are going to say, well, we have had to spend a huge amount of money on hotel accommodation, on expenses, on rerouting our aircraft. are they going to be suing Heathrow? And in turn, are Heathrow going to say, well, it's not our fault, it's the electricity provider? Where could this potentially go over the next few months and possibly even years?
Yeah, that is absolutely possible. I think what is really important here, going back to passenger rights, is that it's really important to state that regardless of these disputes, always the customers are at the forefront of the UK legal policy right now. So there might be a lot of illegal back and forth between Heathrow and the airlines, but I don't see that having any sort of impact on the customers themselves.
You're the CEO and founder of an organisation called SkyFund.
SkyRefund, yeah.
Yeah, and is that because it is a complex situation quite often, and passengers do struggle with the small print and don't always understand what their rights are? What is the service that you actually provide?
Absolutely. I'm going to tell you a bit more about it. We've been working on air passenger rights since 2017, and we've helped more than 300,000 customers stand up for their passenger rights across the world. So our organization assists passengers in navigating the legal frameworks that are currently applicable in the EU, in the UK, in the Balkan countries as well, Turkey, Canada. The idea is that people outsource the entirety of the claim process to our company, and then we process the claim on behalf of the customer.
Okay, could be very useful for many people. Danailov, thank you very much. As we know, some airlines better than others at refunding and compensating. Good to have all that explained to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.